Hey folks! Spring into this month's free marketplace content and cruise through production with a fully rigged bicycle, navigate your worlds with optimized mini-maps, build bridges with drag-and-drop blueprints, open your own contemporary restaurant, and charm townsfolk with a magical modular village. Snag them all before the month is over, then add some dazzle to your projects with a realistic VFX collection, now part of our permanent collection. Download these products via the Unreal Marketplace today. When 6 friends spent their childhoods playing in a treehouse together, little did they know that they'd later set up their own company and become filmmakers. Rendered entirely in Unreal Engine using characters generated with MetaHuman Creator, The Well is Treehouse Digital's first foray into fully CG animated production. Go down the well and into their process on the Unreal Engine feed. While there, explore how Latin American developer Sunwolf Entertainment created a beautiful 2D platformer inspired by Peruvian culture. Imp of the Sun puts you in the role of Nin, an imp that was born from the sun's final spark, and thus, Destiny decreed Nin's mission to restore the sun's power by exploring the mountains and jungles and vanquishing their powerful enemies. And this month, the Sketchfab team challenges you to create a space where evil plans are hatched and devious plots are set in motion. A Villain's Lair. The challenge runs through Monday, March 28th. Get the full contest details at sketchfab.com. Now to shine a light on a few of our fabulous community folks, up first we have The Art of Maths, Winentro's first ever film in UE5. The short features 3D visualizations of mathematic equations, showcasing how math can also be an art. View the full video over in the UE forums and let them know what you think. Next, explore the first chapter of Essence of the Chichico from French team La Revia Studio. You wake as a hybrid plant child, lacking your memories. Solve puzzles and navigate through a multi-level dungeon in search of the sunlight. Download Essence of the Chichico's prologue from Steam. Last up, Kelvin Avey created the awesome scene Temple of the Grimoire. The Grimoire, the bridge between the world of the living and the dead, is guarded by the remaining Watchers of Light. Inspect the complete scene over on their ArtStation page. Thanks for watching this week's News and Community Spotlight.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Inside Unreal, a weekly show where we learn, explore, and celebrate everything Unreal. I am your host Tina, and today with me I have the wonderful Nacho, one of our own evangelists.
Thank you very much, Tina. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with the team. So thank you for having me, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. This is always a topic that I'm super excited to dive a little bit into, and it's definitely some really valuable information for the viewers to learn a little bit more about as well. So why don't you kick us off with telling us a little bit about what we're going to be going over today?
Sure. So we're going to be talking a little bit about, how to get started in the industry. I wanted to not only, of course, these are our general footnotes and ideas. And the idea is not only to focus on how to be an entrepreneur, but also maybe how to start as a freelancer or somebody working in the industry for other people. So I'm going to try to cover as much as I can. And of course, all questions are welcome. And I hope that I can, solve everybody's questions, of course.
Of course. All right. Well, you heard that, chat. Make sure if you have any questions, you get those posted so we can get those addressed. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you, Nacho?
Sure. My actual name is Ignacio. I'm an Argentine, but you may call me Nacho. I don't know why, but that's the short version for my name. I have the coolest nickname ever. So feel free to address me as Nacho. There's no problem with that in whatsoever. And well, just to give you a little bit more, I was going to, develop this a little bit in my presentation, but generally speaking, I have a very weird background, if you will, for being in the gaming industry because I studied political sciences. So I have no clue how to program a hello world, and I have also very little knowledge in how to draw a, cube with primitives. So that's give you an idea of how basic I am. Nonetheless, I focus on the business side of things. And I try to focus on, the production side as well, in the sense of, managing the production of stuff, like practices in studios and whatnot. So that's my area of expertise, and of course, as always, I'm always learning and new stuff. But today specifically, I want to tell you a little bit of my experience, some experience that I have heard from other people as well, how they got in the industry, and just give you some tips and some tricks in order to get in the industry in case you are not already in it. And also we'll try to do a little bit of pro pro ideas, or good ideas to start out your studio in case you want to start out from scratch, which is what most of us do in the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I know that you brought a couple of slides for us, so let's go ahead
Indeed.
and hop into that.
Sure thing. Okay, so I call this how to get into the video game industry. First of all, before I begin, this is a sort of a guide. Don't take it too hard, because in reality, it all depends on where you are from, what the situation on of your country is. But this will probably set you up in a good in a good way, and good path. So let's dive in, right? So, as I already mentioned, I already gave a little bit of my intro, so I'll just keep this slide. Generally speaking, a little bit of my career path, right? So, I studied international relations, which is basically political science with a little bit of international focuses, right? So, I love the gaming industry since I was super young. I think that my first game was in a Macintosh. I still had the black screen with the green graphics, so yeah, pretty old in that regard. And I always wanted to be in the gaming industry, but living in Latin America, it was very hard to get into the industry, even in the late 2000s. So I started my own stuff. That's when I started doing very amateurish things, and I eventually, after learning and learning, I eventually opened and started my own studios called Bacchus Studios. And in that year, in 2017, I was also appointed as the representative of my local province in Argentina. In 2019, we published Triumph's Wake, which, we did very well on prizes and stuff. We won the best in the best multiplayer game at the Indie Prize USA 2019. Unfortunately, we did a very bad marketing strategy, so we didn't sell as expected. Nonetheless, in the end, I was contacted by Epic, and here I am today. Lo and behold, if you will. So Bacchus Studios, um, how did we begin? Basically, well, as I mentioned, we started in 2011, 2012, very amateurish. We started doing a lot of work for hire contracts. That was our main revenue stream and our main knowledge base, because neither of us had proper education in the gaming industry or tech industry as well. So we started with a defunct technology. Back in the day, it was the rage. Come on, guys. I'm sorry, I am old. Bear with me. So we started with Flash. That was the thing back in the day. We started doing a lot of uh, stuff with that. Then we got very greedy and we started trying to make a MMO RTS, which of course never saw the light of day. Who can imagine why? I mean, and then we started using proper tech, like engines started to be being more available back then, and we eventually started using proper tech. So generally speaking, that's um, what I did back before with my company. Now, what is an evangelist? An evangelist is basically a foot soldier, if you will, of Epic. We are the people that we go to events, if there are any, of course, with this new time and space. We provide technical support and not so technical support like the one I'm providing now. We speak about all the different services that Epic has, like Unreal Engine, Epic Online Services, what have you. And of course, if you need any questions, if you have any concerns, we can probably be a point of contact with you to try to solve your questions, right? We are speakers at events. That's why, we are also savvy in speaking all the languages. As of course, when we go to events as well, we are also biz dev. So when you go to business rounds, and you want to have a meeting with Epic, you probably will be ending up with having an evangelist on the other side of the table. So, and most important of all, I think we are always on the lookout for studios and games, regardless of the tech that they're using, because we like to see cool projects and help them out, and see them grow, right? So, okay, enough about me. You guys are not here about me. You're here about yourself and how to start in the industry. And I think that we can definitely get into that. So, basically speaking, we have two main paths that you can take, right? You can work for others, or you can start doing your own thing. So, both have pros and cons, but I'm going to try to go in a very general way what these two things mean, of course, right? So, right, generally speaking, if you work for others, you will probably be having a lot of, you will be incubated, if you will, in your knowledge, because you will probably be learning from people who already know the craft. So you'll probably be gaining a lot and knowledge a lot more faster. You'll probably be also practicing with good practices like agile scrum or whatever methodologies they are using, proper programming like perforce or some other stuff, and how to proper pipelines in working and whatnot. So you have a lot of extra good stuff to earn that way. Of course, there's also probable chances of salaries. I say probable because, in Argentina, a lot of the studios are very small, for instance, and sometimes they do not have, the ways to provide proper salary. They give you basically, rev share, or a percentage of the equity, or the you become a shareholder of the, partner of the in crime of the studio, right? So this is tricky. Of course, it usually is way better in developed countries, but you need to take care of that and consider what's your situation. Of course, if you work for yourself, you have all the creative freedom in the world because you want to make what your own thing, and you can take your own pace as well. Of course, this means that you are also the one having all the responsibility of the project, and also the resources are all yours. You probably don't have any other resources to acquire. Don't worry, we're going to speak a little bit about resources and funding a little bit further down the way. So let's begin with the entrepreneur way. Starting out your own thing, working out your own path, and doing your own studio. Right? That's what I took, for instance. So some steps. First and foremost, be honest with yourself. This is the most important thing, I think, for starting out, because you if you kid yourself, then it's going to be super tough to make the proper thing. Now, in this example, I'm going to focus on studios that are made of a couple of people, not just solo studios. So I'm going to mostly focus on studios made out of a couple of people, right? Two or three people, or even a little bit more. When this happens, I recommend always people, when they get together, you are friends, you get together with your friends and say, hey, why don't we make games? It's such a, cool industry. We love playing games, you and me. We are hanging out all the time. Why don't we make our own stuff? Sure. One of the things I first recommend is that you make a private contract. What? What are you saying, Nacho? Well, it's very different hanging out with a friend, and going for a drink or having a barbecue or whatever, than working with a friend. So in order to not forsake your friendship, it's always very smart to have like a clear cut way of showing what's the responsibility of each person. So let's say, for example, that we have three people signing, making this studio. We have Anna, we have Martin, and we have Nacho, right? So we get together, the three of us, and we draft a document saying, okay, Anna has this responsibility, Martin has this other, and Nacho has this other responsibility. We share the percentage of the company. I know 33%, 33%, 33%. The math. And then we have three copies made out, and we sign that. That gives us a general idea of how we can move forward eventually when we have the funds and we can hire, a proper person to help us, draft a company, right? But that gives you at least a general idea of how to, do stuff. Bear in mind, of course, that it's not legal advice in the sense of things to do per se, and in all reality, but it's at least a thing that I did back in the day with my partners. This way, we always knew what our things were, what our responsibilities were, and this way we were able to avoid any sort of discussions heating up and breaking friendships, because unfortunately sometimes that tends to happen. This way, you have a clear-cut way to show what's what, and have everybody knowing where they're standing, right? So another thing, it's once you are being honest, being done honest with yourself, and you have this contract, the idea following is that pile up resources. Okay, what do you have, Anna? Well, I have I don't know, $10,000 in the bank. Damn, Anna, good for you. And I have two PCs. Martin says. Well, I have this knowledge in whatever, says Nacho. So you pile up everything, and once everybody knows what's what and what you guys have, you can start making your own game, and you start making your own prototypes. I'm not going to get into details on how to make your game. That's for another video altogether. I'm just wanting to get the basic building blocks on how to start your first company. Okay, there's one thing that needs to be clear. Making games is no easy feat. It's very tough. Most of the indie studios, when they start out, fail. So there's a very high chance, if you do not do the things properly, that you unfortunately will fail. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be, a fatalist. I'm just trying to be a realist and try to empower you with as many tools as I can, so your future will be a success. So, as I mentioned already, working with friends is not the same as hanging out. Bear that in consideration. Also, you need to place limits on your project. As I mentioned once with my studio, we started making an MMORTS. It was incredibly huge scope-wise. We were never going to make that project. Never. So try to place limits on what the things that you're going to do. Start with smaller projects. Start learning to do stuff. Start from point A to point B, and be sure to make it to point B. That way you will start and you will see that, hey, damn, I am making stuff and I'm finishing them. There's little things more. Oh my God, I forgot the word. The English is killing me right now. Anyhow, there we go. Fulfilling things, more fulfilling than actually finishing up a project and starting a new one. It's very common to hear and watch jokes and memes about people saying, "Hey, I'm going to start another project," but you haven't finished all these 3,000 projects you have in the backlog. So start a project and finish it. That's actually very good advice. Also, getting resources for your first project is very tough, because you are an unproven company, so people are usually very hesitant to put their hard-earned cash in somebody that has no qualifications to show us as of yet. So it's very difficult to get funding for a first project. Don't worry, there are ways to solve this. So how can you limit working with your friends and not having battle with them? Well, the contracts will help out. At least that's what helped out in my studio. How can you limit the scope of your game, going wide and tall or whatever? Well, start with small projects. Okay, I want to make a game that the only mechanic is jumping up and down. Okay, you can make something out of that, and you can make it so you can finish it. Don't start with an action RPG with inventory system crafting, 35 hours of questing. No. I love the idea, and it's probably the game that you want to eventually make. But first, start with smaller projects. It will help you throughout the way to make that grand project of yours. Okay. Then build a network. Build a network, because a network is the most important thing that you can do. A network will open you doors and will show you ways that you can get the resources that you need for your studio. Usually, even more so in developed countries, you can find a lot of different tools and funding provided by either government or private investors. So there are a lot of ways to get funded. And in case you do not know that yet, you can always go to the Mega Grant program. The Mega Grant program from the from Epic Games, you can get funding from $5,000 to $500,000 for your projects. So be sure to check that out, because there are ways to fund your projects and get the necessary resources to start up. And this is even for starting projects. Okay, let's go. So other things to do besides game deving. Well, I always recommend taking part in your community, because meeting with other people that are making games that are in the same position as you will, first of all, you will start to get to know people that are working, and probably you find somebody that is worth adding to your project. Secondly, you will start doing stuff that you can probably share with other people, and they can share with you, and your knowledge base grows. So this is actually one of the things that helped me a lot. I was able to hire a lot of great outstanding talent by going to the local community and visiting them and talking with them. And I also invested a lot of the knowledge that I was able to accrue in the community as well to help them grow. I will speak a little bit about the community, my community, if you want further down the line, but I don't want to focus on that as much. So, as I mentioned, exchange your experience with other devs. You can share stuff, tools, tips, and how to get things done. Also, be considering that you need to be humble. Be open to learn new stuff and appreciate the info provided by others. But being humble, remember, doesn't mean that you are not worth it. Not at all. You are humble in the way that you allow people to tell them your experience, and if you have a better solution for it, you can provide that solution. And if they provide a better solution, take it to heart and start learning from that point of view. And if possible, of course, this is the trickiest part of this slide, try to go to events. I know that this is the tricky part, even more so now that apparently events are starting to go back to normal, because going to events, you have a lot of people to meet. And one of the experiences that I have been seeing in this industry is that there's not, everybody's cool and open minded, and you can talk to pretty much everybody. So always, if you can and you have the possibility, go to events and talk to people, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Everybody started out not knowing anything, and asking questions is the fastest way to start, helping yourself out in, chipping away the lack of knowledge. So ask questions as many as you want, and people will be more than happy to help you out in events. That's what events are mostly for. So go for it. Okay, now that's a super general overview of how to start a company. So let's do a super fast compilation. Oh my God, my English breaks down again. Anyhow, sit down with your friends, check out what you guys have in resources, be humble and be honest. Hey, you know what? I think I can program, but I'm probably not a senior programmer. I'm probably a junior, but that's what I can bring for in the offer. Make something, set a ground rule for you to work with your teammates and start working on your project. This is the first step, and I know it sounds like maybe not too much, but if you start with these first steps, being honest with yourself, starting to accrue the resources, and setting, this first small projects and working and finishing them off, you will start off in a great way. You have no idea how many studios fails because either they are not honest with themselves, or because they start making these humongous things, or because people were not, honest with each other, saying, hey, you know what? I'm actually not that great in that. Or, you know what? I could probably have done that, and I did not do that because I was shy. You are worth it. So be sure to make and take your part in the company. Okay. So looking for work, there are some other things that you need to consider. It's a little bit different. It's not too different, but same as the other one, you need to be honest with yourself again, because you need to have, you need to be sure what you can bring forward to a company, regardless of the size. We are just speaking about, how you can approach a company. So if you have a portfolio, be sure to have a portfolio ready. What person needs to have a portfolio? Mostly artists need to have a portfolio. If you're a programmer, for instance, you can have maybe projects that you have done with by yourself, programs that you have written. That's a great thing to have with you. Customize your LinkedIn profile. It's a great way to have everything shown, because there's a lot of people getting hired over on LinkedIn. Be sure to check it out. My ex-partner from Baku Studios, he actually got a headhunter look for them, and now he's working for Ubisoft. So just to give you an idea, LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. So also make a great looking resume. By great looking, I don't mean by add a lot of fluff and flair. I mean make it short, on point, and on target. Try to have it 1 page long as most, because having too much stuff and clutter will make people just go, there's too much over here, and just discard it. At least that's what I have seen. So if you can go on point, try to have 1 page. In 1 page, have your contact information, the things that what you're savvy at, and have it at the ready. Make cover letters. When you apply to a job, be sure to make a cover letter per job that you're applying. don't have like a generic cover letter that you send to everybody. No, make sure to have a cover letter that it's worthy for all the studios that you're applying. Be humble and be also honest why you're wearing it today. Hey, Epic, I love the things that you did back in the day. Gears of War were one of my favorite franchises. I would love to be taking, to be part of your team and helping out in whatever position I am applying to. And I would also love, I don't know, I love this culture you have in the company or whatever. Just be honest and try to showcase why you think that you're a great fit for that company. And of course, check your network. Maybe you know somebody that works there, and you can ask them, hey, you know what? Is there a position open on on X or Y? Do you know anybody that that is looking for this my type of job offer that I can provide? So you need to always consider that there are things that are the same for both scenarios, right? Honesty, the network is important. And to be honest, with those things, you can probably start making out a good headway in either if you go to, starting out, or if you eventually decide to work with somebody else, right? So this is probably the toughest ways to start, right? If you have no proper experience, it's tough because not having proper experience, it's going to be one of the main issues that we're probably going to run into, people telling you, right, when you're trying to look for work. So one of the things that when I so I have let me be honest with you, I have a Twitch channel. I usually do streams for Spanish speaking devs. On one day I had a call with a dev from a studio called Robbie Studios, which they made a gorgeous game called Blue Fire. Be sure to check it out, please. And he mentioned, I asked him, hey, so how did you start in the industry? And he said, you know what? At first I didn't know how to program, not to do anything. So I started to go on Fiverr. It's a freelancing page, right? And he said, I started to looking for jobs, and I got in touch with the people looking for, solutions. And I said, hey, you know what? I can do this, but I don't have that much time. I can do it for free, but I can do it in 6 days instead of 3 hours. And he was like, okay, the client. So my friend, what he did, he started working, and those 6 days that he purchased himself time wise, he started doing a lot of research and studying and whatnot. So he was able to perform and provide the service requested, and he started gaining knowledge that way. So he eventually started setting up his own portfolio and his own freelancing experience that way. So he eventually was able to start getting jobs and proper stuff, and he got funded, and eventually he opened up his own studio. So of course, I wanted to mention that example because I think it's a great way to start if you are you don't have any proper skills at the moment, right? So of course, this is easier if you have some technical background. If you're a programmer or a technical artist, you will always get hired easier. Instead, if you are like somebody like me, for instance, this is a business development guy. Business development is not that extended. We don't have that many in various companies, so it's a lot more difficult for that those job postings, right? So of course, there's also into consideration that when you're looking for jobs, it's very dependent on the human resources area, that demand that there are, right? So always in the gaming industry, even though it's worldwide, encompassing whatnot, it's small. So there are a lot of going back and forth country-wise. So be sure to be able to change cities. Me, for instance, I started living in Argentina. Well, I was born in Argentina, but right now I'm living in Chile. I know we're next next to it, but to give you an idea, I already changed country once. My partner, he's living in Germany. So that gives you an idea that you need to be willing to change cities and whatnot. Usually there's a lot of jobs opening, but they're usually in different cities, so it's trickier for you to find those. So let's go to the next one. So a little bit of prep work you can do. So one of the things that you can do when you're looking for a job is investigate. So I want to get into Epic Games, Nacho. Okay, sure. Why not? Go and look for what job openings they have. Are there any similar positions that are already, taken? If so, do you have somebody who works over there in some similar position? Why don't you ask them what they're looking for usually? Uh, so, what do employees who share that position you're hunting down for share in common? What's the specific thing that they require? So, programmers, they are looking for programmers savvy in Perforce. Okay, so probably you can start, learning Perforce. That way, you can start, making your profile more adaptable to the things that you're looking for eventually, right? You can also investigate the company and see if you're a culture fit. Hey, I really like, to I don't know, party after work time. Okay, there's probably companies that do the, partying after work hours. So always try to see if the culture fits and if the positions are what you're looking for. And of course, be sure to make sure that the studio works on things that you like, because don't go to studios that you will be ending up working in something that you don't like, because it will not be a good opening eventually for you, right? So also, be sure whether it would be in the best interest for you to be there or in another company, because as I mentioned, maybe the culture fit is not it's not the best one, or something, it's not the type of genre you like, making games on. So there are different things to consider, of course. That's why you need to investigate, right? So polish your resume, as I already mentioned. You need to be clean, be precise. Try to avoid graphics unless they are necessary. If you're a graphic designer, you probably can pimp. You can. You can spruce. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. The resume with, nice graphics. So there are things that you can do, but always try to be on focused and on the things that you can provide. Of course, do not lie, because usually when you apply to a job, they ask you, to do some sort of performance. Sometimes they request, if you're a programmer, to make a program. If you're an artist, sometimes they request an art piece from you and whatnot. So be sure to be honest when you apply. Okay. PDF format, of course, that's the best way to showcase your resume. Well, make your LinkedIn shine. We already discussed this. Be sure to place proper skills. One of the things that worked very well for my ex-partner in Bacchus was that he set up for a free trial on LinkedIn, and he was able to get more findable for recruiters, and that's how he eventually got hired by Ubisoft. So that's actually a great thing. The first month, by the way, it's free of use, so take advantage of the first month. That's one of the tips that I got from him you know, when he told me, I did a stream with him back in the day. So the recruiters are always on the lookout for technical people. By technical, I mean either programmers, technical artists, animators, that kind of thing. It's super demanded right now. So be sure to make yourself, to show your LinkedIn information and whatnot, so it's everything there, and the recruiters can look for you. Okay, the next one. There we go. Covering your cover letter. Oh, the redundancy. So you need to personalize the basis of the job opening, as I already mentioned. What job are you applying to? What company are you applying to? Keep it short and sweet, but at the same time, go and mention why you're interested in that company. Cover letters are usually optional, but it's also a plus to send them. So consider that as well. So once you get accepted for a first meeting, you'll probably be facing some really hard questions. So be ready for them. Sometimes they ask you, what type of salary are you looking for? So be sure to have an idea of what you're looking for. Some other times they ask you, how would you handle somebody like yourself? So there are very tricky questions sometimes that they ask you, and not because they want to trick you, they just want to see if you're being honest, because people in these kind of situations usually are super tense, and this way they can understand what kind of person you are. And always try to keep a positive light, because you are a great person. I have no doubt about that. And in order to showcase that, be positive and try to see and be honest, and try to secure your position that they are looking for to fill with you, of course. And generally speaking, let me go for the next one. That's my email right there. So be sure to write an email or shoot me an email in case you need any other questions or you want to just chat with me, or I'm here for you to help. Okay. With that being said, it was a pleasure. If you have any questions, please let me know. I know that this was super rushed, but to be honest, this topic in particular is super broad and super specific to person from person. Nonetheless, I did want to at least give a general oversight of how things, some tips and tricks to get you started in this industry. So thank you very much for being here and for attending this Twitch stream.
That was great. Thank you so much for all of that super in-depth information there. I know a lot of that was just invaluable. I know a lot of it was stuff I've had to learn the hard way going through the industry myself. So it's good to be able to have a lot of that stuff, just kind of laid out in the open there. Especially the don't necessarily always work with your friends. That one is kind of a tough pill to swallow sometimes, but definitely very good words of advice.
Yeah, and I think that one of the best things that you can do with friends, I mean, we all love our friends. That's why they are friends, right? But sometimes, a work environment is very different from when you hang out. So that's why, in my experience, we did so great. For instance, just to give you an idea, in Bacchus Studios, my old studio, we never had any issues with either of the partners because we were very on point. We were very thorough when we drafted this, contract between privates that I call, because this way everybody knew what the part of the job that they need to fulfill and the responsibilities they had, and also what sort of perks and things they got out of it. So I think that that's a way that you can help out to alleviate some of the issues that people sometimes have, because we humans sometimes forget some things that we said in the past, because we are human, that we're not machines, we're androids, that we remember everything, right? So I think that this way it's a very good way to avoid those kind of issues that you might run into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it was also good advice to make sure that you have a contract or just something written up that's, something where everybody can go back to it of these are terms that we've all agreed to meet. And that way it kind of keeps everybody on the same journey, on the same road, at the same pace. So that was a great piece of insight as well. In that regard, actually, is this contract, would you recommend it being something that's actually legally binding, or is just the act of having something written that everybody agrees upon good enough?
That's a great question. I think that this is very dependent on where you're based, because, for instance, in Argentina, a contract like this can be eventually legally binding. So, because what we did back in the day, we printed it. So we drafted the document with everybody in the same room. Once the document was created, we printed 3 or 4 copies. I don't remember how many people we were back then. I think we were 3 because one of them left super early on. No, we were 4, but one of them left super early on. So we printed 4 copies out, and each of us signed each of the copies. We signed each of the copies, and everybody took 1 copy for them home with all of the signatures. So that way, God prevents that the worst comes to happen when you open your studio. But the worst case scenario, hey, hey Jack, remember you signed this here. So what you're saying, you don't have responsibility under that. No, you signed this. So come on, let's figure out a way to solve this. So in Argentina, that's legally binding. There, you should always consider contacting a lawyer, because of course this is no proper legal advice. Bear that in mind, please. It all depends on the current laws of your country, where you're based and whatnot. So, but this is the experience that we had with my studio, and it worked perfectly, because at least worst case scenario, if it's not legally binding, at least you have a working form in which everybody has its boundaries and its responsibilities, right?
Absolutely. All right, I have 2 hypotheticals for you
Sure.
for starting a studio. So the first one, what would be your advice to maybe a single person or a small group of persons who have a very good idea, it's within scope, They have all the information they need to be able to start this project, but they know that they need more people and more resources to actually go forward with it. What would be your advice to that?
I mean, to be honest, that's one of the hard things about being an entrepreneur, right? Not having the resources.
Right.
It's tricky. Unfortunately, I think that the best thing that I can recommend you is go for it. Because worst case scenario, you will not be able to finish the project. But on the plus side, you would have gained experience. You had tried it, which is the most important of them. Because if you never try that, you will be like, oh, what if, you know? So that way you
Mhm.
can avoid that. And to be honest, today it's way easier to get seen or get funded or get educations about gaming industry that it was back in my day. So take advantage of that as well. There are a lot of free courses around, so you can learn and cope with that thing that you don't currently have. So for instance, you don't have an animator. Let's say, just for a second argument, right? Well, maybe one of you guys who is not swamped with stuff can start learning how to be an animator, or a person who likes to be who would like the idea of being an animator can start learning. You know, there's a lot of things that you can access to. Maybe go to the community out there. There's maybe another person over there that is looking to be part of the gaming industry, but he has no friends or nobody to share with this in this path. And maybe that guy is an animator. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Check the community, your local community. Go to game jams. Game jams are the best because you can meet cool people. You can make games. You can start learning how to make things and whatnot, and you can start maybe accruing people to make eventually make games. And also be sure to open up and start learning and do games. The best way to make games is to do games. I know that this sounds redundant, but the best way to learn is to do stuff. So I recommend going forward with it. If I may, go for it, even though you might lack some of the resources that you're mentioning. Still go for it and try to see if you can figure out a way to find it either in the community, or maybe find some ways to cope with it internally, getting that knowledge from somewhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then flipping this situation around a little bit. In this scenario, we have a full team, got somebody who can do everything for everything in that. They have
Yes.
all of the resources that they could ever possibly need. But now their scope is way too big. The project at hand is just not feasible. What would be your suggestion for
Mm.
something like that?
Well, when you start a studio, usually the partners are all equal, right? What we did back in Baco Studios, we basically decided that I was going to be the de facto leader, sort of. So everything is wonderful. We worked as a democracy, but we eventually had a dictator if needed. Worst case scenario, if somebody needed to step up because things were getting out of hand, or because things were getting very heated discussions, whatnot. We had usually we joked around. We had a cup. And the guy with the cup was the I don't know why, but things like that happen in studio. Anyhow, the guy with the cup was the current leader, if you will. So he would step up and shut down discussions and close arguments. Maybe what this team needs is to have some sort of leadership in which it says, what, guys, we're a great team. We have all the knowledge required to make a game. Let's not overreach. Most of the indie studios, never end their projects because they're way out of scope. So do we want to be on that side of history where all the studios never reach, or want to be on that side where we make games? I
Right.
would be on the other side. So I think that's a great way to start. Saying, okay, let's get the scissors for to so we can start cauterizing the wound for the futuritis, we called it in studio, because it's a lot of features going on everywhere. So we started cutting the features, and then we start cleaning up those things, because so we have the inventory system. But do we really need to have an inventory system? we could probably do with that one, right? We can probably, have only skill-based action RPG instead of having crafting and, inventory system, be sure to make focus on that. Try to cut out content that I know. I don't get me wrong. I understand that you and the studio would love to have the action RPG with the inventory crafting, quest, whatever. I wanted that as well. That's why I started an MMO RTS with 6 asymmetrical factions. I love that idea, but it's impossible to do with such a small team. So I understand what you're going through. It's unfortunate and it's bad and it doesn't feel right, but it's the proper thing to do. Cut content. Just go and start cutting. It hurts, but it will be eventually for the best. I guarantee you. Finish the project.
Yes.
That's the most important thing that you can do.
Finish the project. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There was always a saying in some of my previous studios that, you can always add more later. So start
Mm,
small, finish something, and then you can add later if you need to, whether it's DLC, expansion, whatever.
exactly. You can probably do the stuff that you wanted to in DLCs and stuff like that. So take advantage of that. It's a great way to start adding eventually the things that you wanted. Yeah, great idea, Tina. Outstanding. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's come up several times on
Sorry.
stream. Scope is always the number one killer of developers. It is so
Ah,
hard to
yes.
keep it all under wraps.
And to be honest, I understand completely what the devs are going through. I went there myself. You want to make the game that you envision and you dream of. Unfortunately, reality says something else sometimes. Most of the time, to be honest, all the time. And you need to make do with what you have. Unfortunately, eventually, hopefully, your studio will be a massive success, and you can make the MMORTS with 6 asymmetrical factions.
Yes, absolutely. So, for some of the networking stuff that you were talking about, I know that you
Yeah.
mentioned going to events, getting on LinkedIn, things like that. Do you have any recommendations for what are some of the best ways to approach people while trying to expand your network?
It's a great question, to be honest. Just I think that specifically about approaching people, just go over there, stand up next to them. If they are speaking, let them finish the discussion they're having with whomever they are speaking to. And once they have a free moment, you can just go easy and say, hey, good, how you doing? Thank you for your talk. I was very interesting. Or maybe you can start with, I don't know, hey, you know what, I have a question. I am a fan of your work or whatever. I wanted to know if it would be okay for me to ask for your email. Always be respectful, always be humble, not in the sense that you are worse than the other person. No, just because humility always opens more door. At least that was my experience. um, I always say that I have 2 abilities, and my abilities are eating and drinking, because those are the only things that I'm good for. you know. And I think that the best way is just to go there. It's another human being, nothing else, nothing scary, nothing out of this world. Yeah, maybe that person is a successful developer, but that doesn't mean he was always a successful developer. So don't let the famousness, if you will, of that person eat at you, because he's still a human being and he will be more than happy to probably help you out and talk to you. That was my experience when I was a very lowly dev, unknown to all. And I went over there and I put my war mask on and went, hey, how you doing? And started, asking people and, building my network. One of the things that I found that it's very helpful for networking is breaking bread. That's why I always said that my abilities are drinking and eating, because I think that it's very human to share a meal with somebody. So that was one of the things that I found the best things that I found to be creating your network. If you can share a drink with somebody, have a cup of coffee, or just eat a croissant or whatever, pastry on the go with somebody while you're chatting about the industry. That's pretty cool, and everybody probably is very open to do that kind of thing. Just to give you an idea how important network is, I think that, well, I think no, my when in my studio, I actually the publisher that we ended signing up with, I did not meet him, the publisher, on a business round. I got introduced by one of my friends. So that shows you how important is the network. You know, being known and knowing people, you can open doors, and you can show people who are in need. You can show them doors, and when you're in need, somebody you can ask a friend of yours, hey, I'm looking for X or Y. Yeah, sure. Here you go. So I think that always try to go for the network. So once again, go for it. Talk to people. Be respectful. Be mindful of the situation they're in, and of course, try to have some sort of. Um, I find some people don't like them. I do. I like my business cards. I'm an old school guy, so uh, I can see the business card. Oh, okay, I recall this person. I met them on whatever. So that's my personal experience. Some other people don't like that too much, but I recommend that you just go for it. I know that we are mostly shy people in the industry, but bear in mind that we are all shy in this industry. So it's probably the person you want to talk to is probably very similar to who you are. So just go for it. It will be a blast. You will see.
Great advice. Really great advice. Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to forget that we're all a bunch of introverts for the most part. And we all have the same passions and ambitions and working towards the same goal. So I agree. It's easier when you approach it as everybody here in this space is more or less working towards the same thing and probably is more or
Mhm.
less the same in some aspects. Very,
Yeah,
very good advice.
we're more
Let me get
similar than we
into.
think that we are in the end.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Let me go ahead and get into some of the chat questions so we don't
Sure.
miss out on any good ones there. There was a question that I thought was kind of an interesting take on it, where how important do you think it is for a team to get an HR team or lawyers involved as part of the company?
hmm That's a great question, and it's very dependent on various factors. But I think that it depends mostly, first, of course, resources. Of course, if you have all the bling bling in the world, you are golden. Needless to say. But let's just, for the sake of an argument, let's go with the idea that you're a regular indie. With you're scrapping by and you're trying to survive.
Hmm.
What we usually do is you end up having people do a lot of different roles. For instance, in my studio, I was the producer slash human resource guy slash business developer slash admin. It was a hellhole in that regard. I was doing so much stuff, but you need to adapt in that situation. Of course, you cannot also be a lawyer because you're not trained as a lawyer. So what you do in those cases? What I did, and I was lucky in that regard, I was able to scrounge up some funds because we did a little bit of work for hire. Just to give you an idea, we did a lot of packaging designs for a cosmetic company in Milwaukee, Goth um, cosmetic company. They were great clients. We loved them. Anyhow, we were able to scrounge up some funds. And for instance, when we got the deal we got the offer from the publisher, we knew we needed a lawyer because we are not that savvy unless you studied law. You are not savvy probably in that regard. So we got in touch with some friends of mine, and they introduced us with Jorge Bedoya, which is my buddy, my friend. I can intro you guys to him. He's a wonderful human being. He has over 100 contracts already under his arm, and he's a Colombian, a great human being. Anyhow, I met him thanks to people who introduced me to him, pretty much like the publisher, right? And thanks to this, I was able to talk to him, and he knows that we were an indie studio, so he charges a very, very coherent fee, and we were able to have a lawyer when we discussed the contract. So, in specific cases, when you need a specific kind of human resource, you can try to go and look for that specific human resource, either through your network or through your area. Why do I say area? Because some things are very specific. For instance, it's not the same if you're I don't know, a studio from Egypt. You will not need the resources of an accountant in Argentina. That's makes no sense. You will probably need an accountant from Egypt, right, to make your stuff work. So in that case, go and make sure to look for accountants in your region, whatnot. Lawyers, on the other hand, more international because deals usually are between companies throughout different places in the world. So that's one thing that you need to consider. But generally speaking, to go back to the question and answer it properly, because I derailed myself, is it usually happens with me. I love to talk,
It's
unfortunately.
fine. It's all valuable.
So in the end, what you need to do is basically for the easy jobs or the things that you can adapt to, let's go that way because that's the better term. If you can adapt to a thing, try to do it yourself to save money. But be honest with yourself because yes, you can probably be an administrator, but if you're bad at it, don't keep doing it because it will hurt your company in the end. So be honest. Am I doing a sort of okay job? Yes. Okay, then you may continue until you are able to accrue enough resources to hire a proper person. But if you're not very good at it, like me at marketing, oh, my marketing strategies were god awful, bad as they come. So I realized that, and I eventually said, you know what, I'm going to hire a PR company. I have no idea where we're going to scrounge up the money, but damn, we need to do this. Sorry, you know. So be honest with yourself and try to see if you can scrounge, internally provide that service that you require. If not, try to see if you can acquire that service on a third party if you're not able to provide yourself with it. That's what we did back in the day, and it's probably what most of the studios do in the end, right?
Yeah. And that was actually a really good piece of advice there too, of doing a couple of side projects or smaller contracts to get some additional funding for the
Yeah,
main project in the meantime,
yeah,
whether
and
that be as a company or as individuals. Yeah, that's a good piece of advice.
yeah. The one thing that people need to consider though is that this type of work, so they have the pros and cons, right? Doing work for hire. The good thing is that, of course, they bring revenue, and the good thing, they also another good thing is that they also increase your experience, so you're are more savvy and more knowledgeable how to solve things, right? The bad thing is sometimes you get too attached to the work for hire gig. So you start doing more work for hire as you stop doing your games, which is not a bad thing per se. Of course, if you're being able to provide for your family and your employees are all well cared for, that's a great thing that happens. But if you're focused and you want to make games, be sure to find a way to balance those out. The revenue streaming and also making the thing that you want to eventually make. I found that a lot of studios have a really hard time to eventually detach themselves from this. One thing that I recommend is that don't work part time in both. Focus 2 years. Do a lot of work for hire. Make a war chest. Save, 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 save. Once you have a war chest and you have a resources for a prototype and you can start making your own thing, you can go over there and start making your own stuff, right? With the money you accrued doing work for hire. This way, you can fully focus on your project. You have more experience. You have resources to make it, and you already have all the time and all the resources required to make the prototype that you were looking to make. This is another way, a good way to start making stuff. Of course, securing the first job is always super difficult. So, if you can, please take the advice of my friend when I explained earlier when we started the call about talking with somebody, offering to do a job for free, so you can start getting the experiences and start doing acquiring reviews, positive reviews for freelancing. This is of course, and once you have enough reviews, you can start charging people, and you have the experience, so you can start charging up. My friend, I think I'm gonna butcher this phrase, but my friend said, the person who doesn't charge at first will end up charging more afterwards. I destroy the phrase. I have no questions about it, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. I think it is really difficult sometimes to kind of come to those same conclusions, but it's good advice.
Hmm.
Very good. let's go ahead and look into some of the other chat questions again here. Um, so, what would you say would be a good size for a team that can start a studio? I know there are plenty of solo devs, but if we're talking ideals, what do you think would be a good size for an indie studio to start with?
Oof, it's like looks like a very harmless question, but it's not so much because
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
extremely dependent on the scope of the project and the type of project. Because I mean, there are a whole lot of things that you can be doing, but let's generally speaking, and without going into genres and to scope of the game and whatnot, I would say that a good sized team would be around, for starting out, 4 or 5 people, because that way you can have probably 1 or 2 programmers, 1 or 2 artists, and somebody who can, lead the team. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, this is very, very dependent on a lot of variables. But generally speaking, I would say that that's a good scope team to start out. You can start probably with less people, of course. There's no way that that my number is the definitive number, but because it's very dependent on various things. But I think that at minimum 3 people, if you want, because that way you can focus specifically one artist, one programmer,
Mm-hmm.
one guy who manages slash sells slash does the accountability or whatever, and also can be sort of like a joker in the sense that they can do art and they can do programming, unlike me, who I cannot do anything of those things.
No worries. I was an artist and that was all I could do, so I understand. Sometimes you have to stick to your role.
Well, Tina, you already did a lot more than I did, to be honest. I mean, I
Oh,
love the gaming industry, but even though I did a lot of tutorials and courses, my thing is speaking, eating, and drinking. Those are my forte. The business side, but artists are always needed, and I bet that your art was a killing piece of art. I have no qualms about it.
well, thank you. I didn't need the ego boost, but I'll take
Oh man,
it.
it's well deserved.
In a similar vein, though,
Yeah.
as you were saying, obviously there are quite a few roles that need to be taken up in order to complete a project. And if
Mhm.
you don't have enough people, would you say that people should be potentially trying to find courses that they could enroll into? How strong of a role do you think some type of education would play into something like this?
Well, to be honest, let me go and tell you a story. When we started Bacchus, we eventually hired a designer, right? Traditional designer as they come, branding, all those kind of things, spot on. Photoshop, I got, but he had no talent regarding the video game industry. We were making a 3D game. What does
Hmm.
Photoshop, I mean, besides normal maps and whatnot, can do for you? Not too much. So what he ended up doing is he eventually transitioned from making the UI and whatnot, the symbols for you, the graphic design for the UI. He eventually started learning on his own because we didn't even tell him, but he was so encouraged and he loved the project so much that he started learning to be a 3D artist. Nowadays, he's an environmental artist working for a gorgeous company. So that showcased that if you have the will and you want, because don't force yourself to do something that you do not want to do. I think that that's a very good piece of advice, but because you will probably not, I mean, you most definitely will not enjoy that. Secondly, you will probably not be that good at it because you're not enjoying it, and it probably will hurt your project as a after effect, right? So if you're going to be replacing or not replacing, I think that's the bad word. If you're going to be trying to fulfill a role that you currently need, but uh, I mean you don't have, be sure to have the person who takes that role to be sure that they are committed to the role and they enjoy the role. Okay, because if not, it will hurt the team. Also, I know that I have been super redundant. I am sorry. I am an awful human being, but be honest and be sure to make, maybe the guy had all the heart in the world and he was amazingly invested in being a 3D artist. but he is drawing very ugly stuff, which is not the final product that you guys want. You got to eventually go and say, you know what, we tried our best. We really appreciate your effort, but this is not working. We need to focus back on whatever you were doing. We will need to, find some other solution, because remember, honesty will help you a lot more than people usually grant honesty to help out. That I wanted to say that. Sorry, my English breakdowns from time to time. It's not my first language.
No worries. It breaks down for me, and it is my first language, so.
Oh, you have to hear my Spanish then. It's horrible.
But yeah, I completely agree. I think honesty is a big, important part of it, which is maybe leans back into what you were saying of sometimes it's hard to work with friends, or maybe you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but
Hmm.
you got to think about the end goal sometimes too, and that requires a little bit of honesty from time to time.
Indeed does.
So getting back into the chat questions. Um, oh, that's a really good question, actually. What would you recommend for scheduling deadlines for a video game?
Oof. This is a great question.
Yeah, deadlines are
So,
hard.
yeah, deadlines is a very good topic to discuss, and this is more of a thing that I gave a specific talk about this. Proper practices or good practices in video game development. What we have been talking today is super general overview, right? It's over a eagle's eye view, so you don't have the details. And one of the things that you will end up finding is that you need to have proper pipelines of production, right? And this is where methodology is coming to mind. Um, there's a book that I read back in it's ye old book. It's from 2008, I think, from Clinton Heath. Agile methodology for video game development, I think it's called. I read this book, and it's basically a way to implement agile methodology to video game development. What is agile methodology, Nacho? Great question, Nacho. Let me tell you about it. Agile methodology is basically a way to start managing projects, generally speaking, right? So what it does is it takes you have a game that's yay sized, and it breaks it into smaller chunks, right? So you have pieces of the game. So you take one of these smaller chunks, and then you break that chunk in smaller chunks. So you have tiny pieces all over the place. And what you start doing is, instead of saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna make level 1, no, you say, okay, I'm gonna make jumping up and down. So you start taking very tiny pieces of the project, and you start making those pieces of the project, and you start venturing in small parts of the project and moving forward. I'm making this explanation super on the easy side. I don't want to get into details because it's very thorough if you want to do it properly. But generally speaking, what you do is basically, when you break the game into these pieces, you assign a value to them. What is more important, the inventory system or to the guy to walk? It's probably for you need the guy moving around to find stuff and loot, right? So okay, let's put 1,000 points of you invent a pointing system. Bananas is the most important thing, so you put bananas on that, or you put I don't know 100 or whatever point system you want to put, and you start pointing the things that you need the game to do, right? Once you have all that pointing system, you start, when you the first day of work, what you guys do is you get together and you say, okay, we're going to take 2 weeks. This is our first milestone. What are we going to do? Okay, let's do the things that have the highest value, right? So we want to have the guy moving around. We want to have the the model of the guy, whatever. And you pick up the tasks that are the most important tasks, and you start working on them. When the milestone of the weeks finishes, the team sits down again. They review how they advance, and they start saying, okay, how do we have the guy walking around? Yes, we do, but we only have back and forth and left. Right, it's not working right now. Okay, we need to add right, next week. So this is very important, because you already know that to add movement to a person, at least let's change the idea. Let's say that the guy is working properly right now. It moves very well. So you already know that in order to have somebody walking around, you need 2 weeks time. So next time you need to have somebody working or moving around. You already know, okay, yes, this we can do in 2 weeks time. You probably can do it in less because you already have the knowledge that you previously lacked. So by at least you have an idea of time that you will be allocating to making that thing. So in the end, the beauty about this system is that you can start knowing how much time you're going to be ending up using for different tasks. This is very helpful because when we were making our game, our 3D artist and VFX artist, he made. We were always saying, okay, Feche, you need to make this. Okay, sure. How much time you were going to take in, making this enemy? Yeah, I'm probably going to take 3 days. 2 weeks time afterwards, he was like one arm he only had one arm or something. So of course at the beginning you will miss horribly in the deadlines because you are overreaching or you're downplaying the requirements, but in the end you will start learning that, okay, this is the amount of time that it takes for me to make an enemy. So in the end, when we were finishing up and wrapping up our game, we found out that we had like 1 month worth of time and he was free of work. So we said, okay, how much time does it take for you to make an enemy? And we checked out and it was 2 weeks time. So we said, okay, let's go, 2 more enemies. Yes. So we were able to add 2 extra enemies for free because we had the time and we knew that it would take that much time. So it's very important to start using this system. One of the web pages that I used in my experience, and it was very good because it was for specifically for game development. It's called Hack and Plan. It has a free version. It allows for agile methodology. It allows you to create at least back in the day. I have no idea how it is now, right? Maybe it changed or I don't know, it's paid. I have no clue right now. But at least back in our time, it did a lot of things because we could track time. We could track the results of stuff. So I recommend that page, and this will help you probably get through and manage your time. Once again, if you are guys and gals are interested in the book, it's by Clinton Keith. It's on Amazon. You can find it the Kindle version, and it's called Agile Methodologies for Video Game Development, if I'm not mistaken. It has a picture. It has 0 things related to game development. It's a beach, a photograph of a beach, but okay, yes, I guess. So go for it. It's a horrible book to read, but it's an amazing source of information. It's very slow and sluggish, but I love the experience and the knowledge that it provided me. So I fully recommend it.
That's a good recommendation. I'll have to find that one myself, actually. All right, so the next question is in regards to publishing and getting ready for publishing. So do you think it's more important for a studio to start working towards a proof of concept or have some type of version of the product to show before reaching out to publishing? Or can they reach out a little bit earlier than that?
Well, it depends. Publishing, it's going to a publisher, it's of course what most of the studios aim for. Some of them don't because they want to self-publish, of course. But if you're looking for a publisher, bear in mind the following. The most polished you bring the game forth, the most chances you will have in being signed, and also in the best position you will be to negotiate. So if I go to a publisher and say, hey, you know what? You see this? This is my GDD. No, he will not sign anything. So you need to have something to show for, right? You need to have a trailer. You need to have a gameplay. The further you are along the line of production, the easier for you to secure a publisher and the easier for you to also negotiate. So also bear that in mind. It's important for you to have something very, very polished when you show, not only because the chances of getting the deal or the chances of negotiation, but also because you need to know what's expected of you. Once you sign a deal, let's say, okay, I have we want, I don't know, $100. I'm just saying silly numbers, of course. $100 for 10 months. Of course, that's a horrible budget, but just bear with it. And let's say that the 10 months go by and you spend the budget wonderfully, but you still need 2 more months of production. Oh, damn. What do I do now? I sign a deal. I need to deliver. So that's one. That's when you go to a publisher, make sure that you know what amount of time you still have in required for development. Be sure to know how much time more you need to finish what you're working on. Be sure to ask for the proper resources, because don't sell yourself short either. Don't go and say, I need $100,000. Okay, but here's 50. Okay, I'll take it. No, don't do that. It will hurt you. It will hurt you badly, because you will not have the required resources to get through the finish line. And in that scenario, you will end up with a very tough situation when you need to deliver something that you do not have the resources to deliver to. So be sure to, when you ask for what you're requiring, be sure to know what you're requesting. I mean, be honest. Once again, I know I am redundant. Call me Honest Nacho if that makes you feel better. But be sure to know that you are requesting the required amount of money, and be sure that also you are saying that you have enough time to make do to deliver the game. Okay, because if not, pardon my French, it will bite you in the behind. There we go. I made it not silly looking. It really sounded very silly.
It's a nice PG. There you go. PG version.
Yes.
All right. Well, out of all of this, out of everything, what is the one most important thing, in your opinion, for starting a studio? Like, if everything else was put aside, what is the most important thing?
That you have a good time. I mean, that's why we're all here for, right? We love this industry. We love games.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're here, the main experience is for you to have a good time and enjoy what you're doing. Of course, all the other things are variables that you need to take into account, but the main objective is for you to be fulfilled as a human being. I think that that's what you should be looking for. Am I a good mix working with Ali, or maybe I should work with Joseph? I hang out better with Joseph. Maybe it's better for me to work with him. Be sure that regardless of the decisions that you make, be sure that in the end you're having a good time. You're making what you love to be doing. Of course, you will go through hardships. You will go through very rough situations. You will find despair probably more than a couple of times. This is game development after all. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. Strive on. Keep working hard. You guys and gals have a lot more opportunities and chances that we had back in the day. And I'm not even mentioning that, coming from Latin America. No, I'm not even going to mention that. Because of the things that everybody with a phone and internet connection can get and find these amazing courses from amazing people making incredible things and for free. So you can start learning a lot of things. You can start doing a lot of great things. And there are a lot of communities out there. You can go over there and find somebody who has the same passion for you for a type of game, and you can start designing things and going, hey, yes, let's do it. Let's go and start making our own thing. Have that fire in your heart, burn, and enjoy what you're doing. Take that bull by the horns and ride it to the horizon. God, I'm getting excited with this. Be sure to take advantage of that, and enjoy what you're making. That's the best piece of advice that I can give you, because if you're enjoying it, you will have a blast regardless of the hardships that you're going through. Okay, so that's it. It sounds super cliche, I know it, but I'm honest, Nacho. I already told you.
I agree. That should be the backbone of everything, is enjoying the process of it. Because otherwise, what's the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I agree.
Well,
any other
unless
questions?
you have,
do we have more questions? I have.
We've
I have
got a
more.
few.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Then yeah, we'll keep going with a couple more in here. Let me find some good ones.
While you look for a question, I have a question for the community here. If you guys like what we're talking about, which is not traditional, in the sense of, more technically oriented stuff, we can probably do some other stuff like, going a deep dive into, proper, good practices in production. We can go into a deep dive of, budgeting. Oh my God, budgeting, Nacho. Did you mention budgeting? It's the horrific sounds of hell you're mentioning. Yes. But in case you want, I can also eventually, talk with our dear Tina here and team, and maybe make something else, more business oriented, if you will. Sorry, Tina, I took your spotlight for a few seconds.
Please have it. But yeah, it's a good point. If this is something that you guys have been enjoying, I am more than happy to bring Nacho back on, and we can dive a little bit deeper into some of these other topics. So let us know what you think.
Just holler and say, "Honest Nacho, to the rescue," whatever. Oh my God, I'm making a meme of myself already. I should not come online.
When we get emotes, it's gonna be Honest Nacho emotes. That's what it's gonna be.
Nacho, I love you too, Chilaxathor. Oh my God, I murdered somebody's name.
All right, so I did find a couple other questions if you're game for going for a little bit longer here. Do you think it's important to actually form an LLC or a DBA before people start hiring or working with other people?
Ooh. So you're throwing me a curveball here, huh? Okay.
Sure am.
Tricky question time. It's, to be honest, it's not super really necessary, at least in my experience. Of course, before I continue, be sure to speak with an accountant, a friend accountant with you first, because, usually the IRS or the AFIP in Argentina, they are very tricky situations. So just be sure to have that on mind. Now, with that being said, usually speaking, when you start a studio, it's not it's not required to start an LLC or a company, because you're usually very strapped of cash. So, investing money that you don't have, let me be clear. There are investments that need to be done, but at the correct moment. Starting out with an LLC early on, unless you're going to start paying salaries, I don't recommend, because you will generate yourself extra costs that are going to bite you in the behind. Or again, how my PG capacity is spot on. Anyhow, so try to save money where you're not required to be spending. Now, if you need and you have the resources to hire people, then by all means start up an LLC, put them in, the proper salary thing required in your country. For instance, in Argentina, it's called 931. 931, it's the form that you need to fill, which is basically you're paying for the insurance, for the, old age stuff. I don't remember the word in English, so there you go. The union, you're paying for all those things, plus the salaries. And also, it's important to notice this: if that person's received $1,000, this is the case of Argentina, of course. So I might be, and this is outdated probably. That person receives $1,000, but you will be paying $1,550. So in Argentina, we have 55% taxes for employees. So bear in mind, the extra costs that come accompanied with that. That's why I recommend going and talking with the proper accountants and, the proper people who are knowledgeable in that regard, because, taxes, they're always there lurking, and sometimes they jump out of the blue, and you suddenly have to pay a lot more money that you probably don't have to when you start your company. So try to speak with some professionals for this, and be sure if to ask them, hey, I want to make the a gaming company, but right now we will not hire anybody. We're just partners working in something. Do we need to open up an LLC? Yes or no? Hey, me and my partners, we want to open up a company, and we want to hire 2 people. do we need to open an LLC, or there's another way that we can do so? There are ways. Ask you with a professional, because it's very dependent on where you are based. It's also very dependent on a lot of very different things. So it's a very, I'm redundant, tricky question. Be sure to check with the proper people to be sure that, don't waste resources that you do not have. Now, also, if you need to pay for a accountant in order to be sure that you're not screwing up in this regard, sorry for the word, I don't know if that's bad word or not,
No.
just do it, because that's an investment. Because if you go to an accountant and say, hey, you know what, I need your services for whatever, yeah, sure, it's $5. Okay, you are a super cheap accountant, here you go. I need this information. Now he will provide that information. That's an investment, because that will probably save you in headaches and problems that you might run into eventually, when you start your own company. So hiring an accountant, or going and talking with with a lawyer, those are investments, are not costs, and they are super important. So bear in mind that you will need to eventually reach out to those people, even though they are from hell, lawyers.
Necessary
No, we love
necessary
lawyers. No,
evils.
I study political science, so I cannot joke about lawyers.
So when it comes to hiring people, outside of just accountants and the investment kinds of hires that you were just talking about, what are your recommendations for that process? Are there any particular things that people should be looking for when they're trying to expand their team?
I mean, of course, first and foremost, look for the thing that you're lacking. That's a given. But then try to see if the person that you're hiring is a culture fit. To mean, maybe they are super, maybe you and your company are super party like, you're super loud and you're, noisy and whatnot. And this person is super chill and, laid back. Maybe that's not a cultural fit for your company. So be sure to make sure that, that person is a cultural fit. Be sure that they can fulfill the role that you're requiring, because when you're an indie studio and you have your strapped for cash, every time counts. So if you end up hiring somebody that will not be able to properly fulfill the requirements that you're looking for, it will probably generate you a little bit of issues. So be sure to look for people that are a proper fit with your company, and that they can fulfill the job required. So it's quid pro quo, if you will, here. They provide something, you also provide something for them, and at the same time make sure that everybody's happy with the new hire, and there are no issues with the within the company, because you want to have a very harmonious place to work with, have people enjoying while they're working the game. um, and also uh, be knowledgeable that when you do hire somebody new, that you do the proper introductions to the team, so they don't suddenly come on Monday and say, hey, who the you know sorry, I almost did.
You caught yourself.
Who is this person over here, Charles? No, that way, everybody is on board, and knows what's going to happen, and they know that, how the company is moving forward. At least that's what we did in my studio back then. We were open, super open. We were always very informative about the situations that we were currently going, even the very bad economic situations that we were going through. Hey guys, I might be able to stall your salaries for 5 days till we get this check, through, or whatnot. We were very honest in that regard. I think that was actually worked for the best, because everybody knew where we were standing, and everybody knew that. Just to give you an idea, the people who work with me, they were always the priority. I always was the one who got the money in the last place, but I always wanted to make them sure that they will, they knew where we were going through. So I recommend doing that with your company as well. So going back to the question, I diverse myself as always. Nacho, please stay focused. Go and start looking for people that fit the culture and fit the position that you're required to fill. That's pretty much the tip that I can give you in that regard.
Yeah. Very good advice too on that. I wholeheartedly agree make sure it's somebody that you get along with, because if you can't see yourself being with this person for 8 hours of the day, 5 days out of the week, that might be an issue.
It's tricky. Yeah. Oh,
Losing my voice.
oh man.
Make sure you hydrate,
I feel
everyone.
my water already.
I know. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, culture is absolutely everything. Because again, like you were saying, this should be something that people are enjoying. It's a passion project typically that started it. So
Hmm.
it's good to be enjoying also the people that you're working with as well. You can
Of course.
have
Yeah, yeah.
the most talented people in each regard and put them on a team, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make a good game because they might not get along.
I think that the best example that I can give you about that is, the Argentine football team before the current team. They had a lot of. I mean, we had Messi and we did not win, so that accounts for something. Yes, you make a great point. Having the greatest people doesn't necessarily mean that you will have the best team, because it's very important how they congeniate. What is that a word? Congeniate? Yes. They relate. There we
Oh,
go. I have no
you
idea.
know what?
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you're going for, and I can't think of it either. See, this is what I was saying. English is hard for me too. It's just a weird one.
Yes, it is. It is weird. Anyhow, you need to be sure that the people within the team have a good relationship with them. Besides that, the objective of being able to perform and do the required tasks, because in the end, if you have a good team that loves each other, and whatnot, and have they end up being friends, and this actually empowers you and the team as a whole to work a lot better. It's amazing the things that you can do when the team congeals like that, into a ball of friendship. Oh my God, Jesus, stop me now. Anyhow, you understood, Sweet Chat. I know you did. Sorry about that. Yes, the ball of friendship. There we go.
I like it. Yeah. Congeal into the ball of friendship
Oh
for
my God.
the best workplace
I
possible.
I request officially to the Unreal stream team over here to please make a meme out of the Unreal the ball, the congealed ball of friendship. Jesus Christ! I Yes, and you know what? The worst thing is that I'm saying that I'm very good at words. No, oh my God, I'm
I
sorry. I'm
love
sorry.
it. No, nothing to be
Thank
sorry
you,
about.
David.
Honestly, I'm gonna get that on a t-shirt and I'm sending it to you. This is our new merch.
I endorse that. I will buy it.
Oh
Give me
man.
34, please.
All right. Well, there were a couple more questions. If you're still game, we can go for just a little bit more here.
Yeah, yeah. I have. Let's go to 45. So I can
Yeah.
no. Let's go to 50 minutes. Then so I can have 10 minutes before my next presentation.
Yeah,
I need to
absolutely.
hydrate myself.
I know, I know. Get that water bottle
Hmm.
back up.
Hmm.
This last one, this might actually be a good question to end on here. Um, so do you think it's more valuable for somebody to try and get a job in the industry first before trying to start their own studio and start their own project? Or do you think there's also value in just going for it straight from the gate?
I think that it's a great question. It depends on what you want to do. I mean, what you value most. You really, really want to work in the gaming industry, or you have more passion for your freedom, because I think that it was oh my God, yes, my brain is breaking down already, not only my English. That's the main thing that you will find in between the two options, right? If you go So when you go to working with somebody, you will learn in a fast forward mode, because you will probably be surrounded by people who know all the stuff that have been through what you have been through, so you will be on the fast route to learning. On the other side, when you do your own thing, you have freedom of doing whatever you want, which has its pros and cons, of course, because you can do the super niche game that you want to do, or but you will also find a lot of different things that you will run into. Both have their value, but it depends on, in the end, on what you value the most. Would you like to be part of the industry now and go for learning super fast, but also having being locked down and specialized in one thing? Or would you like to be more broad and open and do whatever you feel like? I think that that's the main concern, because as an entrepreneur you will be using a lot of different hats, as I already mentioned. So this will allow you to try all the positions. So in the end, this is richer in the sense that you will be have been trying a lot of different stuff. But when you probably go into a company, even more so if it's a big company, you will probably be super atomized in what you will be seeing. You will probably be, I don't know, a 3D hair artist, which is great, but you will know a lot of hair, but you will not very little about, I know, lizard scales or whatever, just to put you in perspective, right?
Sure.
But generally speaking, that's the main problem that you will run into. Of course, this is when you get into huge companies, right? When you work with indie companies, because maybe you start working for a friend of yours that has a decent company of 10, 12 people, then you will probably be more generalistic there, of course. But then again, you will probably be focused on the task at hand and not doing the various stuff. So yeah, it depends on, in the end, what you value most: your freedom or your yearn to scale faster, if you will, right? Because you will gain a lot knowledge a lot more faster. This doesn't mean that when you go solo, when you go entrepreneur way, sorry, you don't learn. Oh no, Jesus, I learned a lot of things when I was an entrepreneur. The thing is that you usually learn a lot by having mistakes, which are not a bad thing. Usually people think that mistakes are bad, and I think that mistakes are the best thing that can teach you, because when you I know, if you jump and you fall, you probably know, okay, I fell down because I jumped too high. But if you jump and land perfectly, you do not know what the if you can jump higher, or you can jump if you could have jump a little bit higher, whatever. So what I'm
Right.
trying to say is, the good thing about failing is that you learn a lot through failing. The thing is that failing is not nice. That's the problem with failing, isn't it? And at the same time, most people in the end find that failing, it's a waste of time. In my appreciation, it's not. And this is coming from a guy who spent 2 years, 2.5 years of his life making an MMO RTS. I know about failing. So let me tell you about it. So you have a lot of things to go through in that regard. And in the end, as I mentioned, it depends on what you want to focus on, of course.
Yeah. Good advice. So yeah, I agree. Figure out what it is that is driving you and let that kind of take the reins from there. Well, thank you
I
so
love,
much.
sure thing. I'm watching here that already we have a hashtag called congealed ball of friendship. Oh my God. I created the concept,
There we go.
didn't I?
We'll get it. We'll get it going. We can start this. But thank you so much. Really, I very much appreciate you coming on and talking about this with me. And the polls that we took, chat is pretty much unanimous. They want more nacho. So
I love you, chat. You're my buddies. I thank you. No, and Tina, thank you for being an amazing hostess. For the team behind, the wheel, Jake, Sky, and all the persons, helping out on the other side. So thank you all for accepting me here and laughing at my silly jokes. I appreciate you coming here and taking your time, which is very valuable. So I would love to be back here and hopefully helping you out. At least have a better afternoon, with my silly jokes, and at best helping you out with your future career in games. And if anybody wants to, get in touch with me, um, my email is ignacio.baldini. Oh wait, I'm gonna write it down. Wait. On chat, ignacio.baldini@epicgames.com. Okay, you can shoot me an email over there. And if you have questions or whatever, please let me know. I usually try to sign up for mentorships and whatnot for people who are starting out. I have no problems in doing so in my my personal time. So once again, thank you all, especially you, Tina, for the idea, the team behind you, and of course the wonderful viewership that you have here accompanying us today.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us in our community day. And thank you everyone for coming to watch the stream as well. Obviously, we wouldn't be here without you. We post all of our streams in video format, and it can be viewed on demand whenever afterwards on both our YouTube and Twitch channels. So if you missed any part of this talk, don't worry. You can see the rest of it later. And don't forget to keep up with us at Unreal Engine on all social media, as well as come say hi in the forums where you can get the latest news and also find all the links associated with today's talk, including where to find Nacho here. But thank you for coming to today's stream. Don't forget to come in next week. We've got a really good one planned for next week as well. And till then, have a good one.
Bye, everybody. We love you.